So today what we've got is we're going to continue building on our introduction to Rails, and we're going to see things that Rails gives us for free. So I know yesterday Josh covered introduction to Rails with everybody. How do people feel on like a scale of like 1 to 5? How do you feel about Rails so far?
On a scale of 1 to 5?
1 to 5, 5 being I'm good. I'm good, man. I don't need any more.
It's probably like a 2.
2?
I'm
okay.
still wrapping my mind around
2 to 3?
Really
It's around where most people are. 2 to 3? Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit slower and kind of show more or less everything that we see here in this giant Rails app. Obviously, most of this is in the curriculum that we have from yesterday, but there are a few things I want to cover, especially when it comes to like CRUD and things like that, and then we'll talk about the things that Rails gives to us for free. So a lot of this looks fairly similar, and that was done on purpose. We started off with one file, just when we were doing like def grandma, and then we moved on to 2 files. One had a spec file, and then the other one was just the main bit of code itself. And then we moved on to other things where we had a DB folder in week number 4 with active record. Then we had specs, and then we had views and things of that nature. And this is the final result. We have this is a Rails file. This is a Rails app, I'm sorry. The Rails app consists of, I think, 13 folders and 56 files by default. And a lot of it should look fairly similar. So gem file, before we only had 1 or 2 things, maybe 6 or 7 at the most. And now we have all these extra ones. This is built in for free. And Rails is what's called an opinionated framework. And what that means is that the creators of Rails feel that there is one way to write software. And most of the time that they're right. Most of the time they are right. So what happens is they have a bunch of people who write software and write apps all the time. They figured out, like it should do it. All the routes should look like this. All of the, they have strong opinions on how web development should be written. And with that, they only allow certain things to be done, which is good for us at this particular point because we don't know what's good and what's bad. So a lot of these things look familiar. We got that gem file, the gem file lock. We have a spec file, a spec folder. So we know that all of our code for the spec, all the specs is going to go inside of here. We have a specific folder for controllers, a specific folder for requests and for routing and support, and later for models and things like that. Every bit of code that we write is going to be tested. The main big difference is, and of course we have that DB and the migrate folder, all this stuff here. These all look familiar. This is directly copied over from Active Record, directly copied over from Sinatra. We have a users table with an email and a name and a password digest. Password digest is just a digested version of the password. So I'm not going to say my password's Apple123. It could look like a bunch of different nonsensical strings and characters. A lot of this looks fairly similar. The 2 major differences that you need to get used to is that everything for the routes used to be an app.rb, and then it moved into the controllers. Now it's all inside of here under config routes.rb. It looks a little something like this, and I'll go over what this is in just a second. This is the first big thing. The second big thing is app holds a bunch of stuff. The main things that we need to worry about are controllers and models. So Rails is what's called an MVC framework. It looks a little something like this. Model, view, and then the controller. The way that this works is that a user is going to come onto your website. They're going to view the particular page. That view is going to get routed over here to this routes.rb page. So let's read through this. So whenever anybody makes a GET request to /manufacturers, it's going to take me to the manufacturer's controller, specifically the index action. Let me see how I can split this screen. How do I split the screen? So, oh, no, I don't want to do that. So specifically, again, I'm a user. I go to your page. That page, whatever view, it's going to hit a view. That view comes over here first to basically determine which page I'm going to load up. So anytime anybody makes a GET request to /manufacturers, I take you to the manufacturer's controller, specifically the index action. Controller is more or less the brains to everything. And the brains to everything, what it means is like, I'm going to be communicating with the database. I'm going to be telling you where to go in terms of like which view file I want you to look at. I'm going to be getting all the data, returning all the data. This is the brains of the operation. The view is what shows up on the page, and the model is the portion that talks to the database. Let's jump over to index.html under manufacturers, if I'm not mistaken. So again, I make a GET request to /manufacturers, takes me to the manufacturers controller, and then the hashtag is the method that is going to be operating off of that. So I go make a GET request here, go to manufacturers controller. Where's the controller? Manufacturers controller, and then here's the index. So I'm here under index, so I have at manufacturers. I'm finding every single manufacturer inside the database. At that point, I'm going to render the index page out to the screen. That particular index page, which is this guy right here, needs a local variable called manufacturers, and the value of that is going to be at manufacturers. It's very similar to Sinatra. I got all the manufacturers. I'm going to iterate over each one of them. Let's bundle install. Everything's running. Bundle exec, Rails DB drop. So it's not rake anymore, it's going to be Rails DB. This is my own issue. You don't need to worry about that. So bundle exec, Rails DB drop. Drop the entire database just in case it exists on your computer, which it definitely does for me. Yep, Tristan.
I tried to do the alias EE for bundle exec yesterday, and it didn't like it.
Sure. So the question was, I tried to do BE and it didn't work. So I opened up my bash profile. It looks a little something like this. Here I'm going to create an alias on line 31, BE equals bundle exec. This means that anytime I type in the letter BE, my bash profile is going to enter bundle exec in its place. After I close this, I save and I close. And I'm going to type in source bash profile. The source basically says, in this current window, I'm going to reload the bash profile and it's going to take over. I think that's probably what was missing. So I bundle exec, I dropped it. Now I'm going to create just a random empty database. And a lot of this is built in under the hood. If you want to look a little bit closer and you have some time, it's under this giant DB folder. Like all of this stuff, that's built in for me is under the DB folder. So I'm going to create a database, and it's going to create both the development and the test database. I'm going to migrate everything in. And then finally, I can't see anything. I'm going to seed it. So a lot of this is copied directly over from Sinatra. I just have a bunch of extra stuff inside. And now to start my server, instead of doing shotgun app.rb, I'm just going to do bundle exec or BE Rails S or Rails server. All right, so I've got a different port, but still operating on my particular machine, localhost 3000. Home index is missing a template for this format. Okay. Well, I don't think we need to, we're not making a request to slash, we're going to go to slash manufacturers. All right, so I've got manufacturers, and let's just run through the CRUD real quick. I can see all of them. There's nothing here right now. I'm going to create a new one. Here's that form almost directly copied and pasted from Sinatra. We will say that Google is a manufacturer and the largest search engine and tech powerhouse. Create this manufacturer. I get a little message that says my manufacturer was successfully created. It was saved into the database because it's located at /1. But I was like, where's the code exist for this bit right here? So if I look over here, I'm going to try to find it. So get manufacturers, get /new. Oh, there, it's right there. Oh, no, it's not there at all. Where did it go? Am I blind? I can't see it. There it is, right down here. So I made a GET request to /manufacturers/ some random ID number. That's going to take me to the manufacturer's controller, specifically the show page. I go over to manufacturer's controller, go to the show. Where did show go? It's right over here. And it's telling me, I want you to render the show page. So under app views, there's a manufacturer's controller, and then there's a show page over here. All right, so I'm going to show the manufacturer's name, the description, and have it linked to edit and back. Just to make sure that this is correct, I'm just going to throw another H2 and write the word poop in there. Close it out, refresh the page. I know that I'm in the exact right spot. So under this show right here, I have a bunch of code. Line 2 says before action, find manufacturer. So this is saying on these particular actions, the show, edit, update, and destroy, I want you to execute this before you do these things. Now, find manufacturer is somewhere on this page. It's down here on the bottom. Def find manufacturer. I'm going to set the instance variable manufacturer equal to, based off of the parameters, I'm going to find it inside the database. All right, I can go back. I can edit this one. I'm going to do Google 123. I'm able to update, able to delete this if I wanted to, go back. I just want to destroy this from the database. It's going to tell me, are you sure? And there we go. So I'm able to create, read, update, and destroy. This is a good skeleton to get us started. And with that, we're going to jump into today's material, which is some of the nice things that they give to us for free that Rails just kind of gives to us. First things first, I'm going to bring this up here because it's hard to see. I'm going to run a command called bundle exec Rails routes. Bundle exec Rails routes will read into your routes folder here, and basically print it out in a nice way. So it's got 4 columns. The prefix is, we'll talk about in just a bit. These are all the verbs that you can do. This is the URI that it goes to, and specifically, this is the controller that's handling that particular request and the action that's handling that particular request. And what you'll notice here on the left-hand side is that we have what's called prefixes. These you'll never see in real life, but you can rename a whole bunch of stuff. You can rename these prefixes for you to use. Take a look real quick. You'll see that there's a manufacturers. I don't know what that is, but if you take a look inside of here, and you have things like new manufacturer and edit manufacturer. Whenever anybody makes a GET request to /manufacturer/new, it takes me to this particular controller, this particular method, and it says as new manufacturer. What Rails gives to you for free is instead of typing out this whole thing which says /manufacturer/new, I can actually replace the whole thing with just new manufacturer path. So let's go real quick to this delete function. So I'm going to create a new. I'm very lazy. I've aliased bundle exec. I've already aliased bundle exec to BE, and then I aliased BE Rails server to S. So I just do that. Let's create a new manufacturer, and let's just create something. Apple is a manufacturer, and they make iPhones. We create this manufacturer, and let's say that I go back to the main page, and I see all the manufacturers. Let's make one more. Samsung makes TVs. So I got 2 manufacturers, and I want to delete Apple from my list for whatever reason. When I hit this destroy button, it's going to take me to this particular path. Delete /manufacturer/ID, that takes me to the manufacturer's controller, specifically the destroy function. When I go into the manufacturer's controller and I find the destroy down over here, you see that I've got a redirect to manufacturer's path after I hit it. Let's put a binding pry very quickly. I'm going to hit this destroy button. Are you sure? Yes, I am. And this blows up because I don't have it in my gem file. Really quick, I'm just going to bundle install, restart the server. Okay, this blew up because it already deleted. All right, let's say I want to destroy my Samsung. I'm going to hit this destroy button, say yes, I'm sure, and it stops me right over here. Now what you'll see here is this redirect to manufacturer's path. Manufacturer's path is not like an actual route. We used to do like redirect to like slash manufacturers. The good part about this is that manufacturer's path is what's called a named route. That's something that Rails gives to us for free. We can just as easily type in redirect to slash manufacturers. But in the case that this ever changes to anything else, we have to change every single hard-coded URL everywhere. All I have to do here is, as long as I have manufacturer's path here and in reference to everywhere else, I can very quickly just go to like the manufacturer's path here and change this to whatever else. Maybe I'm talking about manufacturer parts or something like that. So the idea is, instead of hard coding the URL every single time, by using the named routes that you find here on, what is this, Rails catalog? By using the prefixes here on the left, you never have to worry about hard coding the actual URL inside of there. You just say, if I want to actually redirect you to slash manufacturers slash new, I just say, I'm going to take you to a new manufacturer path. So redirect to new manufacturer path. You never have to actually type in the URL. So there's a few things I can refactor over here. So I can get rid of this altogether and get rid of this altogether. This looks like it's already done for me. Look over here. So whenever we update something, so let's say that I want to capitalize Samsung real quick. So I'm just going to hit this edit button. Excuse me, I'm still stuck in a pry session. I think I kept deleting everything. Am I crazy? Did I do something? Oh, whoops, manufacturer parts. All right, so I have all of my manufacturers here. Let's say I have whatever and whatever, and I want to edit this. When I hit this edit button over here, and I hit this update, I get a patch going to slash manufacturers slash this particular ID. That takes me to the manufacturer's controller and the update action. Manufacturer's controller, update action. So let's edit this one to make it a proper manufacturer. So Tuft and Needle makes mattresses. When I hit this update, it comes over here. It comes over here. It's going to find it inside the database and update it based on the parameters that I pass in. It's going to redirect me to @manufacturer. What the heck is @manufacturer? That's an object inside the database. Like, shouldn't this read like redirect to slash manufacturers slash @manufacturer ID? This is a lot more typing than @manufacturer. Because you already have the because you have the entire object from the database, you no longer need to actually type in this whole URL. Because they know most of the time, if you're going to redirect to one individual object, you're actually redirecting to that particular object's show page, which is right over here as manufacturer. I'm just going to update real quick. Hits that patch. We're moving on. Did I do something? Oops, I forgot to remove. Keep adding stuff and forgetting to remove it. Okay, tuft and needle, poop, mattresses. Let me get rid of that poop. Where is that show? Here we go. Perfect. All right, so that's one of the helpers. These are called named routes. So again, instead of typing out the entire absolute URL over here, all we have to do is find the prefix, and you can add as many prefixes as you'd like just by adding this comma as. And some of them are already built in, like this manufacturer's like this manufacturer's one is already built in, but you can see this new manufacturer is the same one that matches up here. The edit manufacturer is the same one that you see here. This particular manufacturer, this route, the named route is called manufacturer, and that's down over here. So instead of typing out the entire URI, all you have to do is just do manufacturers or new manufacturer or edit manufacturer underscore path. So you never have to type it more than once. There's other ones that help us out quite a bit. So if you take a look under form, oh, where did I click? So taking a look over here, we have this main index for the manufacturers. And you'll see down over here on lines 19, 20, and 21, there are things called link helpers. And these, what I'm covering today is there's no shortage of like shortcuts that Rails has given you. So one of them is, again, that named routes over here. And these are called link helpers. You'll see that this says it's a link to this word that shows up on the page, and then the path that it's going to go to. So instead of saying, like, instead of this is the exact same thing as doing a href, href slash manufacturers slash whatever the ID is, and then show the closing a tag. These two lines do the exact same thing. This might not be 100% accurate, but this one I'm hard coding the URL and the word that's going to show up on the page. I think I messed this one up. There it is. And this line on line 19 does exactly the same thing. This is a shortcut for this line over here. So I'm going to get rid of it. And the way that we create links now inside of Rails, you could hard code it and just do ahref equals, or you can do this link to helper. It's given to us for free by Rails. So it takes in two arguments. The first one is the word that shows up on the page. So if I go to just slash manufacturers, I have show, edit, and destroy. These are the words that show up on the page. So again, I can change this to anything that I'd like, refresh the page, and that's the word that shows up. It takes in two arguments. First one is what shows up on the page. The second one is where it actually goes. So right now, this one's saying it's going to the manufacturer. Well, that doesn't make any sense unless you go back over to that named routes that we talked about a little bit earlier. So that manufacturer down over here is each individual manufacturer. It's going to take me to that number 4 right here. The edit page is going to take me to that particular path. Instead of writing out the full route, I'm just going to use the shortcuts that they give to me for free. Another thing that Rails gives to us, and down over here, new manufacturer, it's a link to this particular manufacturer, this words that show up on the page, new manufacturer. And then the new manufacturer path, if you jump over here back to the routes, is where is it? New manufacturer underscore path actually takes me to slash manufacturer slash new. I can change this to whatever I want. I could literally also just change this to https www.google.com. Refresh the page here. And you can kind of see if I hover over it, it takes me to google.com. If I went back to the new manufacturer path, refresh this again, I hover over it, it'll take me to /manufacturer/new. This is just, again, where the words that show up on the page and where it's going to go. Another thing that's useful is if we jump inside of edit.html.erb, you'll see that we have a few things right here. We have editing manufacturer showing up on the top of the page right over here. And then the two link tos, again, these are those two links. Instead of writing full hrefs, we just have the link to shortcut. And then we have render form. So this is the first time that we've seen this, but essentially what we've done, because if you take a look real quick and I show you this form and I show you the new manufacturer form, it's the same code over and over again. So if I open up edit.html and new.html, instead of typing the same form twice, again, I have, there's too many things open. So I've got a new, this is all the code for new, and this is the code for edit. Instead of typing the same form twice, I do what's called rendering a partial. That's that render that we see right over here. I'm going to render something called form, and inside of here, there's underscore form. Whenever you see an underscore on the front, I'm talking about rendering a partial, and partial stands for partial view. And we do this, one, to reduce duplication. It's the same form. Why would I type it in the same place 2 times? I'm using the exact same form. So at this point, I'm editing manufacturer, and then at this point, I'm going to render the form out to the screen, and it looks like this. I could just as well copy and paste all of the code directly from the form and put it inside the new right over here and put it inside the edit right over here. But 1, I'm duplicating my code. Which one? And 2, tell me which one looks nicer to read. Would you rather read something that looks like this or something that looks like that? And it's the idea that my brain can only handle so many things at one time. Obviously, yes, I can read through this and figure out everything that's going on. But because I've rendered everything out, every single time I look at the new.html.erb, I know that this is supposed to show up, this is supposed to show up, and oh, somebody else is taking care of the form. Let's go there if I want to change things, rather than parsing through all of this that you may or may not need to. All right, let's practice this. So right now, our get index action. So let's take a look at the index right over here. This is not terribly complicated, but we could easily, make this much, like we could probably refactor this in a little way. Which part of this page do you think is reusable and that we could put into a partial? Give you a hint, it's from here on down.
There now. 24.
Which numbers again?
15, 24.
15 through 24. Yeah, or whatever. Like this section right over here.
Sure.
I agree with you. Like, because as of right now, it's iterating over every single manufacturer, putting out their name and their description on the index page. Like Tucked in Needle and they sell mattresses and all of this other stuff. So I can probably grab a bunch of this out of here and render a different partial. First things first, I'm going to create a partial under manufacturers. So right click, new file. I'm just going to do an underscore manufacturer.html.erb. Remember that the underscore at the front, did I spell something wrong? Rename. Yeah. Okay, cool. Remember, the underscore in the front tells you that it is a partial. So it's not a full view, but it's a partial view. And all I'm going to do here is grab a bunch of this code out of here and dump it in its place. Manufacture, each do manufacture. I probably don't need this whole row thing. Grab it and dump it in here. I'll just copy it directly from the, so this should look like this. And then all of the code that I just grabbed out of there should be right here. So I've got this index page, and this looks a little bit nicer in my personal opinion. So instead of having all of the code like I did before, which was all of this, because then I have to think about what this entire page is doing. Oh crap, I just copied and pasted, and I don't have a redo. Actually, no, the redo is shit. It looks like this. I think it looks a little bit cleaner. So I see that I know I have the manufacturers up at the top in an H1, and then I'm going to iterate over each one of the manufacturers. At this point, I'm going to render out the manufacturer partial, and specifically the manufacturer I'm talking about is the one that I'm passing in through each iteration. Jump over here. I have a bunch of TDs, and then this is what's responsible for showing up on the page. If all goes well, I can refresh this page, and it looks completely the same. All I've done is just basically refactored. Instead of having all of my logic and all of my view stuff on one file, I've separated out into another file. How are we feeling? Feeling okay so far? Okay. All right, so speaking of that form that we just moved away, let's talk about another helper that Rails gives to us for free. Form for. We've all made forms inside of HTML, and they're pretty verbose. So even if I just Google HTML form and just copy and paste, and I try it myself, this is all of, I mean, it's not a ton of code, but all of this extra stuff is the thing that you need in order to create a form. Or you can just use form for. Form for is another one of those magical Rails helpers that just basically, when I type in form for, it creates a giant form for me. Specifically, what's going to happen is instead of having this input type equals text and input type equals text and different names and stuff like that, all you have to do is all you really have to do is have a label in this input, and it will automatically go to this manufacturer for you. Like, you don't have to type in the form action goes to actionpage.php. I talked to John about this the other day. There's this concept called a before action filter. So for a lot of the things that we have to do, if I go to catalog, like if I go to the show, or I go to the edit, or I go to the show or the delete or anything like that, I need to find the actual manufacturer based off of whatever's inside the URL. Instead of typing that everywhere under the show and the new and the edit and the create and the update, I have what's called a before action filter. Before action fires off before anything happens. Specifically, what fires off is this find manufacturer method. I've defined it down here at the bottom under find manufacturer, which says that before these particular actions are taken, the show, edit, update, and destroy, I'm going to find the manufacturer, because in order to show it, I need to find it. In order to edit it, I need to find it in the database. In order to update it, I need to find it in the database. Before I destroy it, I also need to find it inside the database. And for us, I might have copied and pasted this code over and over for all of those 4 methods, but all I say now is, before those actions are taken, run this particular thing. Last bit. let's jump back over to the routes. Which folder has my routes inside of? I'm going to close everything real quick. Which folder has routes inside of it? Config and routes, it's right there. So we are here, what we're doing is we are writing all of this ourselves. Like we're in charge of writing our own routes. And this is this is RESTful routing like I sent out and like Michael sent out. And Rails, the people behind Rails were like, well, obviously most of the time you're going to be doing things like this. So let's get rid of all of it. Resources, and I think it's manufacturers. And I think that's it. Let me kill the server real quick, run it one more time, and just to make sure that this all still works, I'm going to visit all the pages. I can still see each individual one. I can edit each individual one, show, go see all, excuse me. This one line of code, resources with manufacturers, is shorthand for this. Which one would you rather type? Again, it's one of those things where I specifically did not show this on purpose because you need to know how to write them first. But there are these shortcuts given to you for free.
Right. So we should just assume that resources manufacturer does all of that.
Mm-hmm. So resources manufacturer doesn't do everything for you, but it gives you all the routes.
Right. Should I be worried about understanding how it does it?
This is literally resources manufacturers literally is just an alias for that. That's all that is. So whenever you type in resources, it's instead of typing these 8 lines of code that you've got here, all you got to do is just one.
So that means that those naming conventions there, how you have edit manufacturer, use manufacturer, those have to be named that way.
Not necessarily. You can overwrite it. So here, let's just take a look at what we've got on left. So this is the old way of writing it, which is, you declare every single route. Some of them you have named routes. Some of them you just kind of defer to whatever Rails gives you. We're going to undo a bunch of times. Why can't I undo? Just going to do resources. You can see it's more or less the same thing. So we still have that root over here. We still have manufacturers going to /manufacturers. We still have new manufacturer. We still have edit manufacturer. We still have manufacturer. Some of the placement is a little bit different, but you still have all of the same named routes, and they all correspond with their originals. Again, 8 lines of code down into 1 line. And let's say that you wanted to do like every single manufacturer has many products. We could do that by doing like get /manufacturer /ID /products /ID, and then you could send that to a specific controller, et cetera, et cetera. You could do all of that, or you could just nest it under here and just do resources products. And just by adding that one line in there, I'm going to add a whole bunch of routes, and it's going to be perfectly nested for me. So I got more routes now, but I still got all of the original, all of those manufacturers, so /manufacturers, getting the form for a new one, showing an individual one, updating, all that stuff is still here. And we also have this new stuff right here. /manufacturer /manufacturer ID /products for all the products that one particular manufacturer makes. You can create a new product under that particular manufacturer. You can see an individual product, et cetera, et cetera. That would take you a long time to type up here in terms of writing out every single route, but it is just nesting it one underneath the other, and then it'll work just like that. right. I'm going to not teach the rest of this because there is enough written there for you to learn it on your own. And instead, I want to spend these last 11 minutes here going over any Rails questions that you had from yesterday. Or if you wanted, I could also just start a Rails project from start to finish in 11 minutes, like a basic CRUD app.
That'd be cool. Very cool.
All right, let's try it. I will do my best. I am going off the cuff here, so we'll see.
What is Rails not good for? Like I hear.
Rails is slow.
Okay, that's it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. All right. So this is directly copied from yesterday. Rails new. I'm gonna call. Let's give me something that you want to CRUD. Dogs. We're just gonna do dogs. So what I've got here is Rails new dogs -d Postgres -t no turbo links. What this is doing is creating a new Rails app called dogs. I'm changing the database adapter from SQLite to Postgres, turning off the testing and turning off turbo links. Running this, it's going to create all my stuff for me. It's going to install everything. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Why is this taking so long? Did people enjoy last night's hack night?
That's cool.
Yeah.
We're lost.
Yeah.
What'd you hack on?
Web scraping.
Oh, nice. What were you scraping?
Trying to find free food on meetup.com.
Solid.
Chicago.
It's useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it work?
I couldn't get it to work, but I saw someone else make it work.
So you like enumerate all those meetups and then scrape those and look for like free food or like free pizza or
Just whichever one's off.
yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, I started with like finding it on a single page and then put that to a method and then just keep going bigger as far as the URLs that it looks at.
Do you have to worry about like getting abuse limited by meetup?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On Reddit. We were supposed to scrape Reddit, but
shut us out.
they shut us down within like 3 requests.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do you like, because like a good person would set a custom user agent so like they know, but to make it work, you'd have to just fake being a browser, right? Which did you choose?
I wasn't
I
seeing
didn't
the
get
question.
that far.
Oh, like which user did you fake a user agent to make it look like you were Chrome, or did you like actually put a user agent like you were a custom thing?
I think it stopped us from like because we were all coming from one Wi-Fi.
Oh, I got
I think it just shut down
Yeah, that makes
all
sense.
requests coming from that area.
You got to do it here.
Hmm?
You got to do it from here. Well, it's a little bit tough, but if you run it from our data centers, because everybody like whitelist our IP addresses.
Is that right?
Yeah, so you can never get blocked.
No,
Nice.
Yeah.
As you can see, Rails has a lot of gems, and those gems rely on a lot of other gems. This is taking forever. I'll get as far as I can until 4, and then we'll stop.
Yeah, so I biked over. So
Okay. Don't get hit. Okay. All right. Cool. Finally, we're here. 6 minutes. How far can I get in one shot? Dogs. All right. So I've got my dogs thing right over here. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a CRUD app for dogs in 6 minutes. All right, first things first, I need to create a migration. And Rails generously gives that to us for free by running bin Rails generate migration. I'm going to create a file called create dogs. This Rails generator doesn't do anything fancy. It just generates a file under db migrate called create dogs. Every single dog has a name. So we'll just do t.string for first name and a t.string for breed. That's pretty much it. A dog has a first name and a breed. Obviously, we can go more in depth, but we are running out of time. From there, I'm going to create a bunch of dogs. Dog.create. Under seeds, first name, Lucky, and breed is golden. And I'm going to do another one for Lassie. And this one is a border collie. If all goes well, I can bundle install and run through my whole setup. Now, I've actually created so that I can just do drop, because I've gotten really lazy. Drop, create, migrate, and seed, and that will do everything for me. I've also done one called YOLO because I'm really lazy, which drops, creates seeds, drops, create, migrate, and seed, and starts the server all at once. Oh no, what? Uninitialized constant called dog. It seems like I've created the table called dog, but there's no model for me to connect the active record to the database. Real quick, I'll jump inside of models, and I'll create a new model called dog.rb. Save it inside of here, class dog. Class dog is going to inherit from active record base, and I believe I can seed it at this point. And let's see if this works. Bundle exec Rails console. Dog.all, and I have two records. First one is Lucky, who's a golden. Second one is Lassie, who is a border collie. This is what I expect. At this point, I want to see all of them, so I'm going to have to jump inside my routes file. Under routes, there's nothing inside there right now. I could type out everything that I want to, but instead I'm just going to do resources. Someone's computer is dying. Resources dogs. Okay, this is broken. What does this say? Address is already in use. That makes sense because I was running it from the old one. All right, I'm going to also set root to as of right now, I'm going to make a get request to /dogs, and it's going to blow up quite a bit because there are a few things that are missing. Now, remember, resources dogs in the end looks a little something like this: cd dogs rails routes. So whenever I make a get request to /dogs, it's taking me to the dogs controller and the index page. Right now it says there's an uninitialized controller, dogs controller. Makes perfect sense. I don't have one yet. So I'm going to right click, create a new one. I'm going to call this dogs controller.rb. I'll just call this class dogs controller, which is going to inherit from active, I don't know what it is. It's going to inherit from application controller. Refresh the page. I get a new error. All right, and then it blows up because it says there's no action called index. Fair, def index. Refresh the page. I get another broken thing. It says I'm missing a template. I don't have anything for a view. Interesting. So whenever I make a get request to /dogs, it takes me to the dogs controller, specifically the index page, which is dog's controller index, and there's no index page. So I'm going to dump it inside of the views as well. So I'm going to create another folder called dogs. Inside of there, I'm going to create a new file called index.html.erb. Instead of .erb, it's .html.erb. I'm just going to type in poop, and that is where we will end for right now. Refresh this page, poop shows up. Actually, I'll just do real quick. H1 dogs. Dogs.
The bar was missing on the right side of the bar.
Okay. Dog is first name. Boom. Lucky Golden Lassie Border Collie. We'll go over some more of this soon. All right, let's head back over to Code Platoon.